We are Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14. We are here to talk about Alabama's trip to Arkansas. That's going to be Wednesday night, 6 Central. You can catch that on ESPN. And I think most people who watch our channel are aware of this, but Nick Smith Jr. for Arkansas is not playing, may not play the rest of the season. Trayvon Brazile is out for the year. So if you're just checking into SEC hoops and looking at names, those are two guys that are out. Otherwise, you got Alabama that is just clicking on all cylinders, and Arkansas has had some issues at times, Blake, at times shooting the ball, which I think is a huge question and maybe one of the focal points of our discussion as we break this game down.
Well, just for clarity, because I know there are some people who have put this out there, we are not reporting that Nick Smith is out for the season. We are just saying that,
There's been a
if you
lot of
want
noise
to,
that way. Yeah.
if you want to read between the lines, he is out through the rest of January. We are not reporting that he's out for the season. I just want to repeat that because I've seen that mentioned somewhere, and we are not saying that. Chris is not reporting that. But if you just again look at kind of the trend, they're obviously, you know, looking at this and just trying to figure out the best situation for Nick Smith. And I know not everyone will maybe look at it that way when you're banking on what he was going to bring this season. But again, we will see what happens from here. But we know he's probably not playing in this game. That we can tell you because he is out through January at least, and that sets up for an interesting game because, as we've seen, Arkansas has struggled to score here recently, and now they get to play the most high-powered scoring teams, I think, out there in Alabama. And the good news for the Hogs is that this game is at Bud Walton. The bad news is that Alabama is playing really well right now, and that makes for an interesting setup here between these two good teams. Just two teams that certainly have had different, I don't know, kind of different directions over the past couple weeks.
Yes, and Alabama has lost 2 games to Connecticut back when Connecticut was maybe the best team in the country, and a game in Birmingham back on December 17th to Gonzaga, in which Alabama was upset. However, the Crimson Tide have won 4 games since: Jackson State, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Kentucky. Not exactly the cream of the crop, but Alabama has impressively taken care of each of those teams. And one thing that's big, we talk about home court in the SEC, and I don't think Arkansas has lost at home since Vanderbilt beat it to open the season, the SEC season, a year ago. But Alabama, Blake, 3-0 in true road games. That includes a win at South Alabama back on November 15th. It went at Houston in a jacked up atmosphere in Houston. Houston was number 1 in the country. That game, I think, was on CBS. The place was full. Alabama goes in and wins that by 6. And then Alabama goes to Mississippi State and puts 78 on a top 10 defensive team, which will be a lot like what they're going to see in Fayetteville. But point I'm making here is when we talk about home road, usually when it's in doubt and we are looking for clarity, we go with the home team. I don't know that you can necessarily do that in this case, given the way Alabama has played.
Well, I mean, I think there, as we've said before, there is something to the fact that, a team just finds a way to will itself to a win at home. We've seen that with Auburn, in a much, having a long streak, right? You look at Arkansas, now a team who was, I mean, got off to just a terrible start against Missouri, but, what did they do? They found a way to rally and come back and win that game. And so I think you're always looking at that as the possibility no matter the opponent. But I think of course, the difference to this point is Alabama is going to be the best opponent that they played, and so, but you can't discount, the home court in this game, and I do think that's something that we just bring up all the time, and people can say, well, this or that, but I mean, the numbers are what they are. As we said, I think 15 of the 19 games thus far, home team has won in SEC play, and again, you are looking at an Arkansas team that it's got a pretty nice streak there at Bud Walton. And so I think, if you're Alabama, you're going to get Arkansas's best here. I think it's just, like we said, it's different going on the road in the SEC like Arkansas has for 2 of its past 3 games and just not being able to find that sort of offensive rhythm versus, maybe feeling like you have a bit more of that at home. And oh, by the way, too, let's not disregard the fact that, maybe you get some more opportunities at the free throw line, or you get a call or two that goes your way at home. We're not just saying that's an Arkansas thing, but that's just a college basketball thing. We see that
Yeah.
all the time. Where home team gets a call here or there that kind of boosts things a little bit. And so I think that can factor too. And as I said before, I think a big key for Arkansas is getting to the free throw line. Um, they can't sit out and shoot jump shots from three. We know that. Anybody who's watched knows that. That's not going to be a recipe for success against Alabama. Arkansas's got to get to the free throw line. They've got to attack and, take the bulk of their shots from two or the free throw line. Like that's it. They, and I think Arkansas understands that now, because when you look at kind of how they're playing, um, look, they only took 16 threes against Auburn. That's not a lot, right? They only hit two of them. And you go to the LSU game, 4-25. So I just think that's it. I mean, they're going to have to probably shoot 15 or less threes. And I think if they can do that, that's a formula for success here. But again, the bigger issue is going to be, does Alabama do the same kind of things in terms of defense and really say, hey, we're going to kind of pack it in a little bit. We're going to sag off a little, which, Alabama's an aggressive team. But do they kind of say, hey, this is how we have to beat Arkansas? We have to just say, look, we're going to dare you to beat us from outside. If they do that, I think that gives Alabama a great chance to win this game. But if they give Arkansas those gaps where they can get to the rim, get to the free throw line, get guys in foul trouble, which for Alabama, they got enough depth to overcome that. But I think that's easily, the recipe for success here.
I think it'll be interesting to see if the guards neutralize each other. You've got Anthony Black, who's one of the nation's more talented point guards and has been phenomenal at times. You got Mark Sears, who was so good for Alabama against Kentucky. You got Jaden Bradley. He's stepped in and done a really nice job as a freshman. I don't know if you consider Ricky Council a guard. I guess you do. He's been phenomenal for Arkansas at times. We've talked about him as a potential player of the year in the league. I think the player of the year, though, is probably on the other sideline in Brandon Miller. And that's maybe where I see a little bit of a difference here. I think both teams have got really good guards, but I think the Miller factor in the three-point shooting, to me, are where Alabama starts to separate.
Well, look, I mean, if you say if the guards cancel each other out, then Arkansas's in
Well,
big
well,
trouble.
let me ask you: do you think that's true?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like I'm
Yeah.
pointing out. Let's say we play that
Yeah.
scenario. If that's the case, Arkansas is in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just call it what it is, because they need Anthony Black to have a big game here. And when you look at the scoring wise, right? He had 23 against Auburn. They didn't get a lot elsewhere. But some of the other games they've had recently, I mean, he scored 6, 7, you know, some of those games like that, but they've won some of those games where he hasn't scored a lot. So they've needed kind of his awareness, and I think his vision on the floor has helped out a lot, because it's helped other guys get shots and easy shots at that at times. So yeah, I mean, look, the guard play here is, I mean, central on both sides, right? Whether we're talking about Davis, Black, like I said, you can put Ricky Council in there. Yeah, I mean, these are Arkansas needs big games from all those guys. But once again, the difference is, you do have a Brandon Miller that is going to be really hard to kind of stop. And I think when you look at kind of Arkansas's rotations, as we said, those rotations are becoming a lot more clear now, aren't they? In terms of, who the guys are going to be in those spots. I mean, I think we know Jordan Walsh, Kai Mitchell, Kamani Johnson's going to play some minutes. I mean, those are the guys I think that you're counting on in this kind of spot. When you look at Brandon, and the problem is with Alabama, and this is the problem for everybody else. You can talk all you want about Brandon Miller. We're going to stop Brandon Miller. We're going to stop Brandon Miller, but it's like, okay, I mean, then what?
Diaco,
Like, I mean,
Clowney.
it's just then what?
Alabama's a deeper team right now. Yeah.
Well, and that's where I think again, here's the key to success for Arkansas. Like I said, it's very simple on the offensive side, but what's also important here is something we brought up a lot with Alabama is they will turn the ball over a little bit, and Arkansas's forced some turnovers. And that's where, to me, I fully expect this to be a close game. But to me, the difference can be if Arkansas can get a couple, of those possessions in a row where they just turn Alabama over, come down, get an easy 4 points, right? Two quick baskets, 4 points. Those are the kind they're going to need a lot of that in this game.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just a couple here or there, but if they can build some of that and get easy baskets, that I think for Arkansas is going to be the key, quite honestly, maybe to the rest of their season is, it's going to be one on the defensive side, but where it's really going to be one is getting easy shot, 99% make shots, meaning turnover, layup. Like those are the kind of things that I think they have to, you pick up some points here or there, that adds up. And I think that's going to be the biggest key for Arkansas here in this game and a lot of other games they're going to play the rest of the season if Nick Smith doesn't return. And again, we've seen where guys can step up offensively. Maybe this is a game where Pinion is at home again. No, he didn't really do much in the two road games, but he's back at home, right? Maybe he gives them 2 or 3 threes. That's big. Those are the kind of things I think you need. It's just, we can talk a deep conversation on both sides, but it's the way Alabama is playing right now that puts Arkansas in a position where they have to fully play to their strengths. And I think the strengths are forcing turnovers, not allowing Alabama to get a gazillion offensive rebounds, and not taking a lot of threes. I think those are the three things for Arkansas that will go a long way. Everything else can kind of work itself out. But I think those three things, again, turning it over, being good on the defensive glass, and just not settling for jump shots on the outside, getting the free throw line, all that. I think that's the key to success. But that's a lot. I mean, those are a lot of things you have to almost do flawlessly to beat Alabama with the way they're playing right now.
I want to bring up one other thing with Alabama on the turnovers that I would like your opinion on. Before I do that, betting $11 to win 10 stinks. With BROTHROW, you can bet 10 to win 10. It lets you bet in all 50 states because it's not the house. Bettors have a fair chance at winning. It is the only sports betting platform that doesn't take a cut of every bet. You don't have to deposit money into a BROTHROW account. No deposits, no minimum bets, no need to connect your bank account. Bettors pay each other directly. There's a hassle-free sign-up process that gets you in the action in seconds. Go to brothrow.com/SE14. Once you are there, ask to join our private Southeastern 14 group. We'll let you in and let the fun begin. But anyway, help out the folks who help our channel. And if you're going to bet on games, you might as well do it at a place where you don't have to pay the house. And so BROTHROW lets you do that, which is why we are partners with them. Okay, turnovers. We have talked about this a lot, Blake. You told me, is this small sample size or is this a team that is learning and getting better? Alabama had 19 turnovers when it beat Mississippi State 3 games ago. It turns it over 7 times in a win over Ole Miss, and then 9 times in a win over Kentucky. And maybe, I don't know if you would say Kentucky was disinterested in the game. That's probably a little hard, but Kentucky's certainly not playing it at full-on Kentucky ability. Whatever the case, Alabama has been better with the ball. Are you seeing something here with Alabama getting better in that regard? Or, okay, well, let's hear it.
I got a stat for you. What do those two things have in common? Ole Miss and Kentucky. What do those two games have in common?
Well, I mean, they won them both. They were both also at home.
They were also at home.
Yeah.
So let's go down the line elsewhere, because here's your stat. In all but one game this season, Alabama on the road has turned over at least 15 times in all of their games away from Coleman. The only game they turned it over less than 15 was against Michigan State. Other games of note: at South Alabama, 21 turnovers. Neutral court game against Connecticut, 21 turnovers. North Carolina, 22 turnovers. Houston, which again, defense matters too, right? Some of these teams are good defensive teams. So is Arkansas, 15 against Houston on the road. Semi-home against Gonzaga, not at Coleman, but it was in Birmingham. 21 turnovers. At Mississippi State, you said the number, 19 turnovers. So in all but one game outside of Coleman Coliseum, they turned over at least 15 times. So if you're looking at trends, which I think there's something to that, because again, we're not just talking about Arkansas as a bottom tier team. We're talking about a good team here. That's something to think about. So I think that, yes, you would think, maybe they're figuring it out. But I also think if you look at the season trend, Alabama has turned the ball over quite a bit away from home. And so that again goes back, I think, towards Arkansas here to say it's very clear like that is what you have to do to beat Alabama. And that gives you the best chance to win is to, like if Alabama turns the ball over 10 times in this game, guess who's winning this game?
Yeah,
It's gonna be Alabama. I think if it's for Arkansas, maybe 15 is that magic number. Like you need to, because here's the thing. Let's say they turn them over 15 times. Somewhere in that 15 number, they're going to get an easy basket or two. And that's what I
yep,
said. I think for Arkansas, just right now,
that's
every
the formula.
every basket you can get that's easy is awesome. Like it's just that's you're jumping up and down because otherwise, as we've seen, it can just be a little bit harder with the way things are structured offensively right now. So, yeah, so I think it's a very interesting point with Alabama, but this is a good game to see. Okay, these last two games, are they telling us where things are headed with Alabama, or is it just because they were at home? And now, if you look at the season trend tells us they're going to turn the ball over quite a bit. Um, you know, in relation to other teams, even though, as we've said before, I think sometimes Alabama turning the ball over is not as that number is going to be higher just because of the way they play more than anything. But so we'll see. I mean, that's a big part of this game, and that's another one you can circle as just a huge one in terms of the storyline.
Okay, we do not have a line as we're doing this on Tuesday morning. What we do have are computers. Ken Pomeroy has got Arkansas favored by a point. Bart Torvik has Alabama by 0.2 of a point. ESPN's BPI has Arkansas by 2.4. And Jeff Sagarin with the home court advantage has Arkansas by 2.2. That averages out to Arkansas being a 1.3 point favorite between Ken Pomeroy, Bart Torvik, and BPI. Those computers give Arkansas a 53% chance of winning. However, I think you've got a little bit of noise programmed into that. I say noise. What you mostly have are a little bit of Nick Smith programmed in. He's not available for this one. And, of course, the big guy in the middle, Trayvon Brazile, who's not been available for a while. Now, Arkansas is a good team without those guys. Still plenty of talent. Black, Ricky Council, just all kinds of guys. And Arkansas has got some depth that's not tapped into. But you've also seen some problems. And we remember this time a year ago, the Razorbacks took some time to figure it out. And Blake, it feels to me like that's kind of where we are. Maybe if they play this game again in 2 months, it looks different as Arkansas has gotten used to the hand it has been dealt. But right now, Alabama is looking like the more complete and ready to win team in a game like this. Again, there's always that nagging doubt of playing in Fayetteville, and you almost don't want to pick against Arkansas anywhere, anytime there. But we've watched both these teams play recently, and I think we both are leaning Alabama in this one.
Well, it's interesting because Alabama's a team that they rely on the 3-pointer a lot. They rely on getting to the free throw line a lot. When you're on the road, those two things can be hit or miss, right? Those both areas can be hit or miss. Again, if you're not getting the calls, if you're not making shots from outside, you get in the gym where they're not going in. That again can kind of drastically change the way Alabama has to play too. But yeah, this is an interesting game, and I think some people may look at this and look at the computers and say, "Wow, why is Arkansas favored? Why is this so close?" I'm curious to see what the spread is. Of course, we don't have that as of right now. Um, I get it. Like I see why Arkansas actually could be favored in this game or be a tenth of a point, 2/10 of a point underdog because they have been so good at home. And I do think defensively, they can bring out what's the best way to put it? They can bring out the worst in Alabama, I think, with the way
Yes.
Arkansas plays defense. So in that scenario, yes, it is one where I can totally see it playing out that way. And because we kind of saw some similarities in the Missouri game, although I don't think Arkansas can afford to put itself down the way it did against Missouri. Missouri's a team defensively, as we said, can certainly have some lapses. Alabama
A
maybe
lot.
can as well, but not to that level. So I don't think that, again, we always say like what do we say of the Kentucky game? This is different, but we said Kentucky first 10 minutes against Alabama is crucial, which Kentucky kind of hung in there for a little while. Second half just got out of hand, but it's kind of that way here. I mean, you could even say which we know it's everything's important when you get in these kind of games, but really a good start for Arkansas here doesn't put them in chase mode where, you get down double digits. Let's take another 3 here or there, right?
Yeah.
No, like that just is not going to work for Arkansas here. And yeah, I mean, look, Alabama's the number 1 team in our power rankings. Arkansas fans, we have a lot of them that watch our channel. I think, like I said, they're very knowledgeable. They kind of understand where they are right now. And, but, too, like we said, there's something to the home court advantage here. I'll pick Alabama just because they are they're the top team. But, I think, as I mentioned a second ago, there are
Don't
going,
bet the house on it in
well, but there
favor.
are going to be some
Yeah.
people I think that are surprised and like, well, why, if Arkansas is favored or why is this as close as it looks, to the computers? That doesn't surprise me at all because I think that, like I
Yeah.
said, Arkansas is the kind of team that can bring out the worst in Alabama if Arkansas is at its best. We haven't seen Arkansas at its full best in a little while now, and especially through these first 3 SEC games. So I think that can make you hesitate a little bit. And like we said, Alabama has been really good on the road outside of the trend of the turnover numbers. And so, with Brandon Miller in there, we say this a lot sometimes throughout the seasons. I think we said this last year about one of these. I just wish this game had everybody on each side like that. You
Oh,
know what I
if this
mean? Like
game
it's
had
just,
everybody,
I
this might
mean,
be the game of the year.
it's
With
just that
apologies to Tennessee.
well, we can wish all that we want, but it's just you look back sometimes and you're like, oh, you wish it was everybody on both sides. But that's it. I'll go Alabama, slight edge here, but and I know kind of talking out of the both sides of your mouth here, but look, no one would be shocked if Arkansas wins this game because they have been so good at Bud Walton. They built the confidence there. I think they will probably shoot it better there, although I think that's in relation to, just the overall numbers versus maybe just being a great shooting team. But yeah, so these are 2 teams that I think are going to have to win in different ways, and I think the turnover battle here and just Arkansas. I think 2 numbers I would circle. How many turnovers does Alabama have? How many times does Arkansas get to the free throw line? I think those are 2 numbers that maybe decide this game.
Okay, he's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We're Southeastern 14. We are previewing every single game involving SEC teams and hoops this year. The best way to catch all those, hit that subscribe button. Plenty of football content coming your way too. We do live football streams on Monday night and live hoop streams. We're starting those on Thursday night. Again, hit that subscribe button, enable notifications so you don't miss those, and hit the like button too if you don't mind. That helps our channel. Anyway, again, he's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. Thanks for watching us at Southeastern 14.